everyone. It's very, very nice to see a almost full house again. So it was all right then in the morning that you came back. That's great to see. This afternoon we're going to be, as we anticipated in the morning, we're going to start by exploring the impact of the artificial intelligence in copyrights and music creation, and more than in the music creation, and what impact it has in the regulatory side of things, how we manage copyrights in a artificial intelligence context. But before I give the floor to Manolo, I just wanted to thank again Primavera Pro for co-producing and hosting the digital licensing sessions, our second edition. I also want to especially thank the sponsors, Interstellar Music Group and Too Young, that have joined us to make possible the event. So thank you very much to them as well. And I will not take more of your time, and I will pass the word to Manolo, who will introduce the panel and the panelists. Thank you very much.
All right, so thanks everyone for being here. Looking for my pen. So my name is Manolo Martinez. I'm a philosopher, actually, just across the street at the University of Barcelona. I do philosophy of science, and in particular cognitive science, which is these days very relevant to the question of artificial intelligence in general, and in particular the ones that will be relevant to us now. So let me introduce the panel. Today to discuss these topics with me will be Agnes Chung. She's originally a musicologist, I think, and she's a senior director of AI and search at Songtradr and co-founder of MusicCube, which is a music search. We'll have time to speak about that perhaps a bit, where the search is semantically rich, so not just by names or metadata, but also emotion or mood, rhythm, etc. She is also into goldsmithing. I think that's a new thing, and since very recently into K-pop as well.
Yeah.
So
Obviously.
well, I don't know. I mean, very recently, apparently.
Yeah.
Also with us, Cris Checa. She's half of the electronic music duo Desert, which will be presenting, I think, their debut album, Chaos Total Cell, at Primavera Sound on June 3rd, actually, last day. Yeah. She's also created music for Ubisoft, Telefonica, and Vogue, and she's been interested in AI and using AI tools since 2017. I think she has also a technical background, which is kind of related. And her favorite all-time records are Kate Bush's The Dreaming and Affect Twin's selected ambient works, which is also one of my favorites. So. And finally, Santiago Mediano. He's the founder of Santiago Mediano Abogados. That was 20 years ago, I think. His career is 30 years in total. He became interested in the legal aspects of AI some 12 years ago, and he's the chairman of the, wait for it, Robotics, Artificial Intelligence, Virtual and Augmented Reality section of the Madrid Bar Association. And he's also, he told me, into fencing and being at sea. So I have to be careful this doesn't turn into a Pirates of the Caribbean kind of situation. So let's begin. I have prepared three kind of main topics. Let's go one by one. And the first one is why it's kind of a bit of an off topic to the question of intellectual rights, but I think it's relevant to what we'll discuss later on. It's why is music so hard? So when it comes to machine music generation, one first thing to say is that it's just not a solved problem at all. So image or text generation, those are more or less solved problems. We have very good results in both of these areas. But when it comes to music, we basically have just like, loopy kind of muzak or, psychophonic stuff, what OpenAI's jukebox. I mean, if there are people working on these companies, please, forgive me. That's just personal opinion. Well, it's just early days, right? Or, things that are some sketches done automatically, and then some competent human musician takes them and puts them together, like in this Daddy's Car song that made the rounds in YouTube a while ago. So one first question, I guess, for everyone, perhaps for Agnes and Christina in particular, is why is music so different from text and images? So it's not hard to see why video is hard, right? So video is very rich in information, so keeping semantic continuity across frames, that seems like a hard problem. But music typically or sometimes it's just a sparse MIDI file. So what's the problem there? We have automatic MIDI generation, but they're just not very good. They're comparatively underwhelming. So what is it? Is it that we don't have adequate models yet? Or is it, am I wrong and actually music is great and I haven't just not been paying attention? Or is it something about the structures of musical objects that makes us less forgiving to glitches and problems than we are when it comes to text or to images? Or what is it?
First of all, I think music has this emotional and what I just discussed at lunch, intentional part for being recognized. So this is somehow hard to just make music to mathematical formats or stuff like that. So we are doing it because we are just analyzing a song and then say, okay, this mood has a song, this kind of BPM. So we are just breaking it down to a really structural mathematical information house. So this is why you can approach music on an easy way as well, but it's always, and this is what you can tell, I guess, the emotional, subjective part of music, because we all have a relation to music. Every song is telling us a story about our feelings and our histories and stories we inherit. So this is kind of difficult to translate into a machine learning system. So there must be artists who know how to use machine learning systems to transfer the emotions as well.
Yeah. I think, as far as I know, AI doesn't have consciousness, let alone.
As far as who knows, right? But, let's work with that assumption.
Let alone subjectivity in the same way humans do. So I think it is more complex. I mean, I've been generating images using AI, and remember that we've been counting fingers in photos. So we've been spotting errors, like, okay, this human has 4 fingers, so this image is generated by an AI. It has an error. But how would you tell that a song is wrong or sounds bad? I think it is more complex. And moreover, you can analyze an image like an image, But with music, I think it is more complex because the composer, takes you on a kind of a journey. So there's this time element. So you have to figure out how to put notes and how notes and harmonies and rhythms are interconnected through time, So I think it is more complex. It's not about an image. It's just,
Yeah. So one thing but so when people ask me, or I talk with people in the street, friends of mine or whatever, people thought that machine learning and AI was about super intelligent, aloof creatures, and we actually have these kind of super moody things that fall in love with their interviewers, and like in the GAF by Microsoft Bing some weeks ago, I really love you, I want to marry you, and things like that. So if anything, they are modeling and super sentimental. So I'm kind of surprised that. So I'm sure the emotional element is there, and you're absolutely right about that. But then we know how these machines just can feign or feel. I don't want to get into that question just yet. Emotions, right? So it must be something else as well. There must be something else, I think. And same with sequences you were saying. So it's true that music tells a story, but text also tells a story, and we have things that tell. So I think it's kind of neat that music is so much harder than say writing a story, or it's kind of cool that music is like that.
yeah. And I don't know, but I have a question for Santiago.
Yes.
Maybe it is related to how, I don't know if the music industry wants this to happen, And with images, it's more easy.
Well, in my opinion, we are talking about language models, and text language or word language. I think there are very relevant differences between music as a language and words. Language models, they are programmed to make predictions of what comes next on a statistical basis. So probably there is something behind music as a language that where statistical prediction has not been well developed yet. And this might be a reason why this is happening, what you described, Manolo. With respect to your question, music industries is a patchwork. It's not a sole being. There may be some parts of it that are really looking forwards to what's happening, starting to happen. Some other parts may not. It is like audiovisual. Audiovisual is going to be, it has been using AI already for some time. For instance, some dubbing actors are beginning to get really worried about their jobs. So they are taking some step forward to say, I don't want to be part of this. So I guess there will be companies very much engaged in the use and development of AI for producing music, for music cube, finding the right music for whatever purpose. But there will be parts of the industry that simply don't want to get state of the art with it, with this technology, and they would like this not to happen at all. And well, there is a process, socially speaking, economically speaking, of low-costization happening everywhere, with jobs, not only with music, with so many things. So there may be a need and a marketplace need for low-cost music, and eventually AI-generated music might fill the gap and offer low-cost music for consumers who want it. So I think it needs to get better. I agree with you, but this is a taste thing. I'm a very music fan, so I like more, I would say, rich music and more complex music. But the technology may be reaching that point very soon because it goes so fast.
Yeah, but the thing here is that, and Agnes, I know that she agrees with me, that AI is a tool, you know? So the human touch is needed. Is needed both developing the algorithm and selecting the outputs and the inputs and curating all that process.
Yeah, at the moment the AI is not able to just produce by itself. Everyone is using ChatGPT, but you have to write a prompt that the AI is delivering something.
Yeah.
So, and this is where the human is still involved. Of course, it could be sometimes that there were machines just producing music without any human being, but also there is one person who just programs the AI by saying, let's produce music in a loop and do not care about what other people say, This is always possible. But it's always a human behind this AI, even if it's developed, if it's trained, if it's used. So there can't be any humans without an AI. Can't be without any human at the moment. I don't know what will be in 50 or 100 years, or even less than 10 years. Maybe there's something
2
different.
years.
Or 2 years.
Or 2 months. Yeah.
Or 2 months. Yeah, you never know.
So going back to the things that you do, of music recognition and so on. So typically, what we know from text and video, and so not video actually, also not solved, but text and image. You first do recognition and then you do generation. And recognition is kind of a big part of learning how to generate. Do you think that the kinds of things that you do will kind of help create generative models for music, or the kinds of tools that you deploy in recognizing what music is out there and so on? Is that something that might be kind of redeployed as parts of a generating system or something?
Yeah, I would somehow hope so, because there are a lot of songs outside in the world. So Spotify alone claims to know about 80 million songs. But if we, as a person, as a humans, look in our playlists, in our daily playlists, I have 3,000 songs in Spotify as my favorite songs. So this is really a small part of this whole big music world. We are into it. And I somehow hope, and this is why we intended and funded MusicCube to make a music search who discover easily more music from unknown artists with unknown songs that I've never heard of. but maybe it's a good fit, and it's not only for me on a personal side, but it's also on a professional side for labels, distributor, marketeers, music supervisors, curators, who also can use the AI as a supportive system. And this is how I see AI at the moment, to say, okay, AI supports us in dealing with such huge databases, and this is still our aim to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. No, yeah, I think what Agnes is doing is super important. One thing I'm super concerned with is that in this AI era, there will be, and excuse me for the word, but for the word I'm using, but like amounts of shitty content, like huge amounts of shitty content. So how could we find the unique original music? So if nowadays it's super difficult to find this, no, and to get to know this type of music to the audiences, with like lots and billions, and I don't know
Yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah, how many amounts of like super homogenic music. How would be will we find the original unique music? And by original and unique, I'm not saying not generating by AI. I mean, it could be a collaboration with AI and human, but yeah, this is super important, and yeah.
That actually, segues nicely into the second kind of segment of what I want to discuss with you guys. So, it's called "Everything is Interpolated," which is the title of a recent article. Which is the idea that contemporary music, so the music that we listen to and the music that the music creators, that I think the one that is highly in signal and low in noise and so on, so good music, kind of routinely draws from and alludes to older music. So sometimes very iconic music, sometimes very obscure music, or deep cuts from here and there. But basically, that's what much successful music, but also interesting music does. Like for instance, you don't actually need to just sample stuff, although there's a lot of that. But also what Harry Styles did with "As It Was," compared to Aha's "Take on Me." But there are many more examples. Waste Blood, singing in a way reminiscent of Johnny Mitchell, or Always, whatever how they're called, drawing from game theory or from the Smiths or things like that. So, assuming, as I think we should, as you guys were saying, that large music models will eventually be able to transfer styles just as compellingly as music generation does these days. How will this be kind of legally and artistically different from what Styles, Alvarez, and Blood do, so if at all? So Santiago, for instance, in previous conversations, has pointed out to us how there are new regulations on pastiche which are lenient, and is that leniency a problem? Yeah. So why is music different here? If music, if that's what music seems to be at, in the rehashing, re-elaboration, redescription, revisiting of older material, older styles, and things like that.
Well, legally speaking, it is to me very remarkable that the first two rules that I can find in European law about AI were not devoted to regulate some of its risky aspects. There is a draft regulation by the Commission dealing with dangerous AI, different levels of risk, different levels of hazard, which is not in place. There is a draft regulation from the Spanish central government about this same topic. But the first two rules devoted to AI were copyright rules. And these were not what one would expect to happen. For instance, to solve the question of, do we have to redraft or to redefine the concept of an author? Will the machine become an author? Or who's the author when there is AI-generated music or other content? Who's the author of that? Is that protected by copyrights at all or not? These very important topics, they were left behind, and the two first rules on AI were copyright cuts. They were devoted to cut off some rights owned by composers, authors, publishers, and other members of what we could call the cultural industries. And these cutting off rights are pastiche, parody, and caricature.
And sorry, what?
Caricature. And the second one is data mining. Data mining is a process that is necessary for training generative AI systems. And it strikes me that there has been somebody lobbying back in 2018 to get these two rules into the Digital Single Market Directive. And when you read the recitals of the Digital Single Market Directive referred to pastiche and data mining and so on, there is a very relevant sentence saying copyrights should not be an obstacle for technological development. So there is a recognition that somebody thought it necessary to cut off some copyrights in order to help AI development. But the directive never mentions artificial intelligence. When you read the rules in the current context, you realize this was actually devoted for AI. So, well, to me, there is a need for a debate around this. I would not like to see further rules on AI cutting off some other rights, and which could eventually not be copyright, some other eventually even more relevant rights, without a social debate and without everybody being aware of what's happening. I mean, to me, AI is great as a tool. It will really bring so many things, so many good things to human beings. But as I've heard lately, AI and other threshold technologies, they are neutral. It is about what we use them for, how we use them, not the technologies themselves. So I think there is really a need for awareness. I do not foresee any apocalypse.
That's nice. That's good. Good to know.
Yes, I do
can
not
leave it by
foresee.
Can everybody go home?
and sleep well yesterday. But I mean, there are certainly some risks, and before even debating how we deal with them, we need to know which risks we can face, and I think there is a need for further awareness on this topic. It's not only about AI. There are other very relevant technologies currently, like CRISPR, like Neuralink, and on interfaces between the brain and the machines, and some other.
So CRISPR for genetic sequencing.
Yes, and robotics. So there is a need for a social global debate, because I believe humankind is about to take over in its hands the course of evolution. We can decide what we want to become, or what next the coming generations will be, and this is, in my opinion, thanks to these threshold technologies. So debating today's debate and more other debate, getting awareness, I think it is the most positive way to deal with this.
So, yeah, going back to this thing about parody and stuff, that's always been possible, right? So it's always been, artists were able and willing to parody and to allude to and refer to the work of other artists, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's normal to have references. And yeah, but you have to take into account that you can't control the process. So maybe I want to sound like, I want to make a David Bowie's style song, but it ends up like, I don't know, Spice Girls type type of song. So I don't know. There's something in the process that even if you have references, you can't control. And I don't know. To me, it's normal, and not just making music, but for instance, if you make a music video and you make a Pinterest board and you want that Rei Kawakuo meets Junya Kantanabe outfit and the filmography that reminds you of that director, and you put it on Pinterest mood board. So you have this pastiche, right?
Yes.
And you're making a pastiche, right?
Right.
Yeah, but for me, I mean, it's normal.
No, that's kind of I think the.
I mean, because the thing here is, what does it mean to be an artist today? To me, it's not. To me, an artist is not a powerful god that creates from nothing.
Of course.
Okay, we all recycle. Okay, and we all recycle, and I think that nowadays the artist is like the ultimate curator with all the technologies we have and all the resources we have. I mean, to me, I see it this way, and and when I approach music, I feel like a curator more than I don't
right,
know.
someone a sacred source of
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think actually Agnes's model, so the business model is predicated on the notion of there being this kind of general things that music share with one another, right? So that one can go to ideally to some piece of software and say, please, retrieve music which is similar to this song of which I like, or similar to, moody 90s style, blah blah blah, whatever. So there's been this kind of layer of semantic content in music. There's something that you need for it it has to exist, and it has to be protected, right? It would be bad, I guess, if you could go and say, because this music kind of conjures a similar mood to this other piece, that should be prosecuted, or this person should pay copyright to this other person. That would be bad, right? So I guess the spirit of protecting artistic similarity in general is well taken by you, I guess.
Yeah, it's not so much the protection of it, but to show that it's possible.
Right.
That it's
yeah.
possible to compare music with each other, so each other song to compare with music. Here in the Western part of the world, we just rely on this 12 tones. And there are not more than 12 tones. So every kind of music, as you said, is already played somehow. So, and this makes for us, for our system, for our vision of finding music on a good way, much more easier. And this is what I mean when I say music is somehow something mathematical as well, because it has a very clear structure. And this structure we are all used to. And I like the idea from you saying that you feel as a curator, as a musician, because you have this richment of music and this rich sound all over the world, and you can just pick and make something new out of it. So an AI can do this as well, but the AI, and this is what Santiago meant, is it has to learn how to use it, how to make it. So it is something human-made still, because it just picks, and this what it makes as an intelligence, because we are all intelligent people. And why we are intelligent? Because we are learning all day long, our whole life we are learning new stuff, we are getting input, we are just somehow categorizing it to see it clearly, to understand it. And very lightly said, yeah, the AI is doing the same thing, but on a very fast way. And this is the thing that we are lack of, because the technology is developing now so fast, because AI exists since 40 years. It's nothing new. So AI is really existing very long. And I remember the discussion about drum computing, drum machines. So everyone was, oh gosh, my job is gone. So, but still we have drummers on the stage.
We do.
Still.
We
So
do.
I guess, so this is something we have to adapt, we have to learn about to going on with. But it is the speed that we have taken on with the new technology, and that we as humans, and on the legal side, we do not come right behind that. So we are not the thinker, we're just reacting and not acting on that. And this is somehow I think this is the problem in between this discussion.
So there's always this, sure, there's always this, I'm sorry, go ahead. No.
Well, I wanted to add that copyright laws have always acknowledged that any human being creating a work or any performer is not working from the scratch, never. We all are born in a context, in a cultural context, in a social context, and we learn from that context. So there is the music, there is the literature, there is the cinema, whatever. And this means that no one really is making everything absolutely from the scratch. The recognition of that fact has meant that copyrights are one of the very few properties that are limited in time. Usually a property disappears when the object disappears, but if the object is there, the right exists still. But with respect to copyrights, that's not the same, because there is a recognition that society must benefit from copyrighted works at some point. So there must be a balance, and that balance has been found in some time. That means that from really old times, it has been acknowledged that there is cultural appropriationism. But there has been also, the rules have also regarded it as a degree issue. Mm-hmm. How much can you copy, or how deep can you copy? Is imitating the same as copying? And what is correct, what is not correct? There is lots of case law, there is lots of rules, and that's fine. But currently, with artificial intelligence, everything is, the system is going to explode, because artificial intelligence only works by learning patterns. It's a language model, whatever, for music, for instance. So, but it is going to work so fast, so profoundly, so broadly. It is not the same as Christina picking up things she wants to put into her works.
But I work like this with artificial intelligence.
I know, but
it depends how you use it, I think.
Yeah, well, it depends how you use it. Or, let's imagine you could compose, 10,000 musical pieces a minute, and you worked 24/7, and there is not only one of you; there are hundreds of you.
Yeah.
So this is it will be like a tsunami.
Of course, I think that we have like as an authors to have the right to opt out.
Yes.
To opt out and
of
to
being in a data set, you mean? Of being in a data set.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or I think we need like a new framework, no, of consent and different layers of consent, and of course each author have to authorize this or that, or I think we need to work to build like a framework for that. I'm not saying this, of course.
I couldn't agree more.
Because maybe when I don't want to feed the algorithm with that song of mine, maybe.
Right. So when people have been discussing this in image generation, which they have in the past few months and so on, people were objecting very much to being using the prompt to the image. So draw something in the style of thus and so, or this person or that person. That sounds objectionable if you're going to make a profit out of that, out of copying someone else's style and so on. But so Jorge Luis Borges has this story where someone can kind of reconstruct someone else's appearance or whatever just by the echoes of the echoes of the echoes of that person, how they behaved and how they impacted people in their surroundings, and you get this extremely dim signal of what the person looked like and was like, in another place, in another time, and so on. And that's a bit like this too when it comes to art, right? So you can recognize echoes of many different artists in many other different artists, and it's kind of hard to put a stop to that, right?
Yeah, that has happened throughout history all the time, and that's fine. That I don't find that there is any problem. But this has happened, so to say, organically. But now it will happen.
Will be
I-
weaponized.
Yes. I mean, it's going to be thousands and thousands every minute. So it's not anymore organic. And well, Chris talked about shitty content. Eventually, that will be part of that shitty content, and there will be some consumer. I mean, in a low costization process, in a context of huge jobs losses worldwide because of some technologies, until we reach what is usually called the third phase, when there are disruptive technologies. There are three phases in the marketplace. Third phase is when everything goes up again, and well, while this is going on, so many the talk is about eventually 300 million jobs worldwide are going to be lost for at least some period of time, and there will be less resources available for consumers, and this and that. Well, there will be low cost content, low cost apparel, low cost food, low cost, so many low cost things that will be necessary to keep everybody alive and well. And so it may be a good thing, but my only fear is this could go eventually too far.
Right. So I think we can move to segment 3. We can always, of course, come back to any of these topics if we feel like it. But segment 3 is called "Models Are People Too," which they're not, but anyway. So one thing that philosophers care about when we think about deep learning and so on is, of course, the extent to which these models and LLMs and other deep learning architectures can be said to cognize, can be said to think things and intend things, mean this or mean that, and so on. And I assume that's, again, a question perhaps for Agnes and Santiago mostly, but of course also Cris, of course, that the legal status of these architectures as regards their outputs is perhaps connected to whether we can answer these questions in the positive or not. So, if you have something that, as you said, can be considered to be a co-author of the piece, then I guess that impacts the legal status of that, product as, a matter of plagiarism or whatever it is. And if it's not, it will be another kind of situation and so on. So there's this kind of influential critique to current efforts in AI, where people say, critics from the left, there are also critics from the right, but critics from the left, that these machines are just something like stochastic parrots, as the phrase goes. They kind of regurgitate and repeat what they have been fed. And my question is whether they are, right? Are they? I mean, so the parroting and repetition seems to be a shallow affair, right? So you repeat what you've just heard, you repeat the shape of what you've seen or whatever, but when you're kind of repeating the very abstract meanings embedded in some abstract space of configurations of a system or whatever, is parroting an apt metaphor, or has it broken down at that point? So does it make sense, I guess the question is, to talk of large deep learning models as glorified photocopiers, and what, if anything, hangs on this? So that's the legal status of machine outputs, if they are legal res nova or falling under current copyright norms or whatever. Does that depend on the question of whether they are actually cognizing or not? Yeah, so that's my question number 3, I guess, for you guys.
Well, it is a great question, Manolo, I have to say.
Thanks, man.
This is why I left it to you.
Not very easy to answer. First of all, I believe AI systems are not alive.
Well, not yet. No, of course not. Yeah.
And not being alive makes them unable to hold or contain a self-consciousness. They cannot be self-conscious. They cannot be even conscious. But they are so good at imitating the output of self-conscious beings. They are so good at making us believe they can chat with us, but there is no one. When we write to ChatGPT, and we believe there is someone behind talking to us, that is not true. That's only an illusion. It's a language model, and it predicts what comes next, and it can predict the answer we may expect. But there is no conversation. There is no actual conversation. There is not two different beings with two different consciousnesses sharing their minds. The concept of an author has traditionally been linked to a human being, and it has always been said only human beings could be authors. That excluded animal works, like this very nice photo of a monkey that was the scope of a copyright case some years ago.
Yeah.
It also excludes machine, or excluded machine works, machine-generated works. But this concept of an author as a natural person has been changed throughout time and geography, and some copyright laws allocate the condition of being an author to legal entities. Legal entities are not persons. They don't have any conscience either. They are only shelves where we put rights and obligations. That's it. There is no a thinking entity behind legal persons. So we have already created what I could call would call a prosopopeia, that is allocating the some parts of the abilities and of what makes human beings be such to legal entities. We have created that fiction. There is nothing impeding us to make the same with a machine or a software or an algorithm. We can decide that it is convenient for society to allocate, legally speaking, the condition of being an author to a system. Why not? If that is good for us. So we can therefore conclude that even though these systems are not conscious, they do not hold a conscience, they're not alive, currently they are not a different new form of life, but we still can decide to allocate them the right to become an author. And that is the debate. My personal prediction is that we will see this happening, and then sooner than later.
So how does that make you feel? So do you feel that, like perhaps Cris, do you feel like they should be kind of granted authorship? You know, when you deal with image generation, you do, right, in crea.ai, for instance. So is that something that you feel like we did this, between Midjourney and me or something?
It depends. It depends. Maybe if I'm too big, like in a Salvador Dali style, it's like, come on, But I mean, I've been working in pictures for like 2 days or 3 in a row, like iterating, and the final image is mine, So it depends how you use technology. And I want to say, I think, one thing that Santiago told us, like, okay, this could be like very dangerous because people could lose their jobs and all this stuff. But the problem is not technology. The problem is humanity. How are we using this, and how are we building this, and how are we building the frameworks to use these tools? But the problem here really is humanity, not technology.
And it's the fastness of this developing of technology, because we as a human can't come behind. There are few people knowing how to train AI, how to develop AI, how to use it. But the rest, the big community, the big societies, do not understand what is meant by AI, because they all fear of this intelligence and of the self-thinking thing. But as you said, it's only a prediction. An AI does predictions at the first sight. So, and this is what we have to learn as a community and a society, to understand how does AI works and how can we use it on a proper way, that we are able to use it as a supportive system and not to be afraid of it at the end, and not to discuss about is it a real human or not. No, it's not. But to understand how it works and to be adopting the fastness of this technology.
Yeah, so you as a musicologist and a person who's interested in kind of the formal aspects of music as well. I mean, so isn't it the case, I'm asking here, I don't know, that when one of these machines, when they do, because as we said in segment 1, not there yet, but when they do actually offer us something which we don't recognize and is kind of new to us and so on. Isn't it a matter of what's going on in the actual formal properties of the object itself, not whether it comes from this being or that being or whatever? Is the object interesting? Is the song interesting? Is the kind of piece of music, the Bach style chorale or whatever, interesting? Right? It's going to be about that, and not so much perhaps whether it's been done by this or that thing. So you're into chess, right?
Yeah.
So Magnus Carlsen, this happens in chess already. The thing is that we don't care about chess nearly as much, and rightly so, as we do about music. But these machines kind of create solutions to problems in a match that are really creative. That he says, this looks very much like creativity. I mean, what can you say, right?
Well, uh, there is something I'd like to add here. There is the so-called Turing test. Remember that Turing, one of the fathers of artificial intelligence, he said, well, there is going to be a disruption whenever we interact with someone. We don't know if that's a natural person or a machine. At that moment, something different has arrived, and the course of history is going to change. And I think he was right, but I think we are over that. And the next Turing test to me is whenever we interact with a machine, we know it is a machine, and the machine tells us, I love you. And we do not know if that's true or not. And knowing it's a machine, we eventually may ask ourselves, does this machine love me? Does it have feelings? Is there a consciousness behind? When that happens, that's going to be a next step, a different situation.
So it's 11 minutes. Oh, sorry,
Sorry, no. And if we treat this like a Turing test, who would be the evaluator?
We are going to be evaluating that.
Lawyers or
You need anthropologists, you need philosophers, you need psychologists, you need doctors, you need biologists, you need lawyers, you need everybody, in fact, because if we decide there is someone in there, we will have to grant that someone the same rights we hold. So we will be creating a new form of life. And that's not anything. That's quite a thing.
Yeah, interesting times. So we have 10 minutes, and I think we can take questions from the audience.
There's one in the first row.
Okay, so there's a microphone coming.
Okay, so lately we've seen like these new AI models, like they take a prompt from vocal recording and takes out a new vocal recording, taking references of any other artist, like we sing with Drake and The Weeknd. How are the perspectives for a regulation of this kind of use of AI?
Well, as I said before, there are new rules throughout Europe. One of them is the data mining exception or limit. Data mining requires to feed an artificial intelligence system with thousands of data, in this case musical works. You have to put them into the system, and doing that would eventually clash with copyrights. Whomever wants to do that should get a license, because there is a use of those copyrighted works. So you need the phonogram, you need the artistic or the performance, you need the work, the underlying work, the composition, and the lyrics. But there is a rule allowing to do that without holding a license, without having to ask for a license, and that's fine. So, and without having to pay any money to those who own those works, recordings, and performances. And this is already in the law. The second rule that is there deals not with the training of the system, but with the output. There is a case going on in the United States. There is a group of female artists that have sued an AI company that was offering AI-generated images that you could request with natural language. And they discovered their works had been fed into the system, and so the system could somehow imitate their style and some of the patterns and some of the aspects of their art that made it recognizable and unique. And they said this is a massive copyright violation, and the output of that AI system is a massive copyright violation. Well, we now have the pastiche exception in Europe. Every European country must pass regulation allowing the creation of pastiche, and there is no harmonized definition of what that means. But if you go to the Spanish law, there is Royal Legislative Decree 24/2021. If you go to the pastiche rule and you read the definition, it is almost a copy of the definition provided by the Spanish Academy Dictionary. If you go to that, you can see that pastiche qualifies as a permissible plagiarism. And it uses the word plagiarism. That word has been taken off the legal definition of pastiche in Spain, but it's still a plagiarism. Now it is admissible and it is allowed. So this litigation that is going on in the States would be lost by the artists if they had brought it up here, because now the output of AI, even though it could qualify as a plagiarism, provided it fits within the rule of pastiche, you can't do anything against it. So if you move to some other copyrighted subject matter, such as artistic performances, you could have parody, you could have caricature, and eventually there is not the possibility of avoiding this. So some experts are willing to rely on the so-called image rights, or right of publicity in English. Well, there is a need for a deeper analysis on that, but if you have limited copyrights in order to allow the creation of pastiche performances, eventually the right of publicity shouldn't be a limit either. In fact, caricature is not a copyright term in Spain. Caricature is contained in the Honor Personal Image and Privacy Protection Law, that is Organic Law 1/1982. And there is a limitation to these fundamental rights that is called character. So this is probably the reason why the Spanish legislator, when transposing the European rules into Spanish law, did not pick up caricature and put it into the copyright law, because it already is a limit to privacy and publicity rights. Summarizing, eventually we may have already rules that make this possible in Europe.
Some more questions. David here has a question. So I'll ask questions of panelists to keep it short so we can have.
Yeah, it's a very short question regarding more with the music industry. So basically, Houston, we have a problem here because we were talking this morning. Eduard was saying that we have now 120,000 tracks uploaded per day to the main DSPs. So it's 120,000 each day. And those are not AI tracks, okay? Because AI tracks are somehow being like pulled away, at least when they are recognized. The cake is limited, as we've seen in Irene's and Emma's panel. So there is a limited cake, limited revenues or limited subscribers that will generate revenues to songwriters and music publishers, and also to the record music side. So what's the next step here? What is the practical tip to do here? It's like to create, because we are having also discussions that the value of a drop of raindrop shouldn't have the same value as an Ed Sheeran music, okay, in streaming services. So they are thinking, or people are thinking, in moving like white noise and etc. to other services, like being a separate service, like a Spotify, a different Spotify for that. Should we think about having a separate Spotify for AI-generated music, or AI helped to generate music? So, because otherwise, like Santiago said, it's not 3 years or 10 years. It's like 2 or 3 months. there will be no piece of the cake or a very small piece of the cake for the songwriters and publishers. And the one there that will still be there, it will be for the majors only. I don't know what are your views there.
So what do you think, Christina? I mean, you're the musician here, practicing one anyway.
I don't know. I have to think about it.
You can't. So.
Do it.
I don't know. The thing here is that, yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, for me, AI helped. What tag did you use? AI helped music or?
Or generated, or I don't know the
Yeah.
the other one.
Yeah.
Like music generated with AI or music that people use AI to help
Yeah.
somehow in the creation or
Yeah.
creation for us.
The thing is that for me this is not something so new because I've been using plugins that use machine learning for ages. So I don't know. Using the term machine learning help music, I don't know. I'm sure that 90% of the music you listen to, well, I don't know, but if you listen to electronic music or music made by computers, 80% of that, it's done by the help of machine learning, I'm sure. So,
Yeah, the thing is, you mentioned K-pop at the very beginning. So in K-pop, there are virtual artists like Maeve, which is complete in the metaverse. There's also now recently just released a song by a producer, by a human producer, so to say, but using AI vocals and to release the song in on a way in 6 different kind of languages. So they have followers about 20 million. They count streams, 20 million on Spotify, 20 million followers on Insta and stuff like that. So I guess it's also a generation question because the younger people who listen to this K-pop music right now and to these producers and all this, they do not bother if it's AI or not. So we would lose them somehow if we go up and separate all the music. Because as we said at the beginning, as long as music touches you somehow and you had a feeling with the music and you are connected somehow to the music, I would say it's like, yeah, it's like but courageous, but yeah, it doesn't matter if it's an AI curated song or not at the first sight. But of course it matters in regarding of artists, of jobs, of copyrights and stuff like that. So we always have not only the one side of AI generated music, but there's also always a larger picture of that. And the younger people do not bother about that already. So we are not speaking of 2 years or 3 months. It's just happening right now. Yeah.
I mean, to me, AI, as I said, I don't know, 100 times, is a tool. So if I listen to a song and I like it, I don't mind if it's done by an AI, but a musician plus an AI, or a musician, or I don't know. The thing here is the amount of data generated and how you would find the things you'd love.
And who earns the money?
Yeah, that's all.
And who earns
Who
them.
uploads the music?
Yeah.
The thing here is who uploads the music, because in Spotify you need to be labeled, you need to be some big structure to upload the music. So if the AI don't create by itself the structure, it's not allowed to upload music. But
Yeah.
So the power here is in the big companies that upload
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
this
yeah.
content, and also in the independent musicians that upload also this content.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Those are humanity problems, as I said before, not technology problems.
Yeah, in the early 2000s, there was a decision. It was a decision that was then put into the law by the developed countries. So in the Digital Millennium Act in the United States and in the Information Society Directive, it was decided that intermediary services would not be liable for copyright violations committed by the users of those services unless certain things happened. That created the ground for the blooming of piracy. and piracy simply exploded. Like I say, like the cordyceps fungus in The Last of Us. It was all over the place.
Come on.
And it killed a lot of jobs, and it killed a lot of companies, and it was a huge problem for culture. And well, with the time that was we came over it, and now we have legal services and online streaming music, downloading. We have, and now many people pay for the content. That's fine, but if you look at the result of that process, there was a huge concentration, and there were many small, medium-sized companies that are not anymore here. Big companies concentrated too. The whole marketplace shrunk, but it was divided into among less competitors, so they get more. And technology companies jumped into the distribution marketplace, the phase of the marketplace that is handing out the content to consumers. AI now is like taking one step upwards. Technology is not trying to get a big part of the distribution marketplace. It is taking a big part of the generation marketplace. Not competing with companies anymore. It's competing with people, artists, authors, and that's what's going on. That is what this is about, and it will bring a low costization process. Creating content is going to cost much less because it's not going to be done by humans. So its output is going to be a low cost output. Should that go through a different channel? Well, it will depend on the demand by consumers. Maybe there will be consumers who can only pay very small amount of money to get the content, so low cost content might go there. But I believe that low-cost content will entail again that even human-generated content will be low-cost, because humans will have to compete with machines, or there cannot be any authors or performers that are human beings, because they will not be able to survive or to make a living out of their art and professions. So I think I mean, the question you pose is very interesting, and there is no specific answer yet. The thing is, we need to watch this because it's a jump up by technology companies trying to get a big share of a different marketplace, which was usually reserved to human beings.
So we are
No, oh good.
we are past the 1 hour mark, and I think it's time to stop. So let me ask you to join me in thanking Agnes and Cris and Santiago again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.